Well, alrighty, so Captain America Brave New World is now going through its final lap as a theatrical run, and it seems like the writing is now on the wall and everybody can actually see how this movie has actually done at the box office. Now, many of us had already said and predicted that this movie was going to be an abject flop at the box office. However, we had all of the access media coming out to shield for Disney as they usually would, and they were making a whole lot of posts bigging up this movie in its first week, as we got Variety come out with articles like this: box office, Captain America Brave New World flies to a heroic 100 million over President's Day holiday weekend. Of course, what do you expect? Access Media Shield will Access Media Shield. They went on to say Captain America Brave New World deliver a heroic $88.5 million in its box office debut, with domestic ticket sales projected to climb to 100 million through the President's Day holiday weekend. Not to mention that the President's holiday Day weekend was a 5-day weekend, which is nearly a week, but they were projecting it as if this was a 3-day holiday weekend. They also went on to say, despite unfavorable reviews and terrible audience scores, the 35th entry in the Disney's Marvel Cinematic Universe arrived slightly above projections and ranks as the biggest opening weekend of the year. It's also the 4th best President's Day launch on record, following 2018's Black Panther with $242 million, 2016's Deadpool with $152 million, and 2023's Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania's $120 million. Translation means it came last when you're actually comparing it to those particular movies, and those particular movies were released on a 3-day weekend, not a 5-day Presidential Day weekend, because they were released a week before the Presidential Day weekend. However, Variety wanted to lie to us because they wanted to make this movie look like it was overachieving at that particular point in time. However, now that we are in the final weeks of the release of this particular movie, it seems like the truth and the inevitable is now staring them at the face, and they can no longer lie about it. And we're now getting articles like this: Captain America Brave New World officially a box office disappointment for the MCU. Now, Comic Book actually takes this report from Variety. That's why I'm actually jumping and using comicbook.com to actually read the story. So I really want to dive into this particular article, because one of the key reasons why I feel like this movie has failed is because it was already based on an agenda-driven ideology. They wanted to push certain messages with this particular movie. We've seen Disney, or indeed Marvel, do this from the onset with a lot of the movies that they've done post Endgame, and this was going to be no different. And so one of you guys actually asked me about the essence of DIE when I was talking about Captain America Brave New World in my last video that I spoke about this particular movie, and I said yes, I would use this opportunity to actually break down why the whole DIE, diversity, equity, inclusion ideology, is actually bad, not just for the movies, but it's actually bad for society. So we are going to dive into this article. I'm going to share my opinion as we go along. Feel free to share your opinion in the comment section below. Without further ado, here we go. And don't forget to smash the like button on this video. Now, given the fact that this movie has been through multiple reshoots and multiple failed test screenings at that, it is very hard to believe that the amount of money that they are actually now telling us that was spent on this particular movie, the budget of this movie was $180 million, because insiders had already revealed that this movie's budget had ballooned to $350 million, but it doesn't stop them from actually giving us this fake amount of $180 million. At the end of the day, even at $180 million, it doesn't seem like this movie is going to recoup how much they've spent on it, as it were. Marvel's 2025 did not get off to a rousing start, as Captain America Brave New World has proven to be a box office disappointment. Now, roughly a month into the theatrical run, the latest installment in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is poised to be one of the franchise's lowest earners. In a preview of its box office weekend, Variety noted that the Brave New World is projected to earn about $5 million domestically. As of this writing, the film has grossed $177.2 million in the US and $371.8 million worldwide. That's including the US, which isn't nearly enough to offset the massive $180 million price tag, according to the outlet. So even though they lied, they still are not making the amount of money to actually make that lied figure look good. So this movie was already doomed to start with. So after that, this movie has made way less than Ant-Man Quantumania and might not even make as much as the Eternals, as it were, which would be a cataclysmic flop. Variety says that once the Brave New World time in theaters is over, its global total will be in the same ballpark as The Eternals and Ant-Man and the Quantumania, which grossed $402 million and $476 million worldwide, respectively. It's definitely not going to make $476 million. Stop playing with me. Stop that. Now, as of this writing, Brave New World is the fourth lowest grossing MCU film of all time, ahead of only Captain America, the first Avenger, and the Incredible Hulk, and the Marvels. Now, speaking of Captain America, the first Avengers, if we actually adjust for inflation, Captain America Brave New World did not make anything near even close to what that movie would have made if it was released today. Check this out. According to the numbers, it made $370 million back in the past, which was reported by Variety and comicbook.com. However, when you adjust for inflation, this is what you get. $525 million at the box office is what it would have made if it was released in the same conditions or economical conditions as today. However, you're not going to get the Access media tell you that now, would they? Instead, they continue to make excuses instead of hitting at the heart of the matter of why there is a downward spiral with most of these MCU movies. Captain America Brave New World did not have strong legs commercially, enduring a steep 68% drop in its second weekend. It didn't pass the first Avengers total of $176.6 million domestic, $370 million worldwide until after its fourth weekend in theaters. Brave New World held on the top spot on the charts for 3 consecutive weeks before losing last week to Mickey 17. Of course, they now continued by talking about the dangers that will be faced by other upcoming MCU movies like Thunderbolts as well as the Fantastic Four, but they didn't hit at the heart of the matter. And the heart of the matter is the fact that this movie was always based on agenda. It was meant to be centered around political messaging as well as woke messaging. Matter of fact, we heard information that General Thaddeus Ross, was to be an allegory for Donald Trump. But it seems like when they started seeing the writings on the wall, when they started seeing the pollings and so on and so forth, they decided to start changing the storyline and move away from the political rhetoric. However, when it comes to the implementation of DEI in the movie, it was already too late. They already had a DEI director, they already had a DEI superstar, they already had a bunch of DEI sidekicks and other DEI people in and around the movie, and the story was already set in stone. So it was difficult for them to actually move away from that. Now, why is this seriously bad? Because one of you guys asked me, what is it that is so bad about this DEI? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, I've always maintained that the idea of pushing equity in terms of society and trying to help a certain people with a leg up is actually always a dangerous game, because no matter what you do, equity stands for equality of outcome rather than equality of opportunity. So when trying to give equality of outcome, then that means that you're going to be taking opportunities away from certain people because you feel that other people have been marginalized and those opportunities needs to be given to them, therefore creating a form of discrimination to those people that you are taking opportunities away from to give to these other people that you feel have always been marginalized. Also, you are now projecting to society that you see some people as superior to others. If you actually look at the basis of this ideology, it is simply represented in this particular illustration right here, where it says that certain people, as in white people, have an advantage, automatic or genetic advantage over everybody else. As you can see how white people are represented here, they are genetically taller than everybody else. A person of color, possibly maybe even better, and black people happen to be the people with the least genetic advantage. So in order for you to actually elevate black people, I mean literally to actually give them equity, you need to take away from the white person and hand it to the black person so that everybody can now have equality of outcome. However, in reality, how does this actually play out? What is actually happening? You get discrimination against a certain people. You get discrimination against white people, therefore turning us who are actually buying into this idea, or black people who buy into this idea, into the very thing that they were supposed to be working against, which is racist themselves. Now, here is the other problem with this particular thing, is that it cuts off the idea of merit. Now, if I, at the end of the day, achieve through merit because of the fact that this program already exists, if I was in a company, for instance, and I achieved some high position through merit, people will always assume, because that program is in place, that I didn't have those achievements through merit. I only got it because of the diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. So if you remove those programs, everybody will be on an equal playing field and everybody can achieve as much as they possibly can. Have you guys noticed that they're not crying about diversity, equity, and inclusion in the NBA? Neither are they crying about it in the NFL because it is riddled with black people. Of course, because they merit it in the first instance. However, when it comes to other areas, maybe in the corporate world and so on and so forth, they continue to push this thing, and it has led to a failure in society. It has led to a failure of many of these companies, hence why you can see that Google has stopped it, Facebook has stopped it, Walmart has stopped it, Walgreens has stopped it, and a whole list of companies have stopped it, because you cannot hire people simply based on the color of their skin. You need to do it based on merit and the representation. And the key reason why I did not like the idea of turning a black Falcon into a black Captain America is the fact that he already merited being Falcon. He never merited being Captain America, and they only turned him into Captain America because they wanted to push this diversity, equity, and inclusion thing, and it was a failure when they did it in the comics, and it's also a failure now. Taking things away from one person and giving it to the other based on the color of their skin is discrimination any which way you slice it, and that is the bedrock of racism, and that is what they wanted to push, and that is why I am sincerely happy that this movie is an abject failure. Case and point.